Queen Fawzia of Egypt was born on November 5, 1921, in Tehran, Iran, as Fawzia Fuad. She was a daughter of King Fuad I of Egypt and his first wife, Queen Nazli Sobri. Fawzia was a princess of Egyptian royal descent and an Iranian princess through her mother's family, creating a unique connection between the two nations. Her birth marked a continuation of the royal lineage that shaped Egypt's history during the early 20th century. Her early years were spent in Egypt, where she was educated in royal customs and practices. Her upbringing was that of a high-ranking royal, and she received private tutoring that included subjects such as languages, history, and music. The blend of Egyptian and Iranian influences in her life made her a symbol of diplomatic and cultural ties between the two nations. In 1939, at the age of 17, Fawzia's life took a significant turn when she married the Shah of Iran, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. Their marriage was arranged as part of a political alliance between Egypt and Iran, intended to strengthen ties between the two countries. The wedding was a grand event, with Fawzia being crowned the Queen of Iran. She was widely celebrated for her beauty, intelligence, and grace, and became an icon in both Iran and Egypt. However, Fawzia's marriage to Mohammad Reza Pahlavi was short-lived. Despite their initial happiness, the couple faced many difficulties, and their union was strained by differences in culture, political pressures, and personal issues. In 1945, after 6 years of marriage, Queen Fawzia and the Shah of Iran divorced. The divorce was a significant event in both Egyptian and Iranian history, with Fawzia returning to Egypt after the dissolution of her marriage. Back in Egypt, Fawzia lived a quieter life compared to her royal years in Iran. She was not involved in Egyptian politics, especially after her father's death in 1936 and the political upheavals that led to the monarchy's eventual collapse in 1952. Egypt underwent major changes during this period, with a revolution that led to the abdication of King Farouk, Fawzia's brother. Fawzia, however, remained a respected member of the Egyptian royal family and continued to live in Egypt for the rest of her life. In 1950, Fawzia married again, this time to Ismail Chirine, an Egyptian diplomat. This second marriage was also relatively private, and the couple remained together for the remainder of her life. Queen Fawzia lived in Cairo for many years, although she maintained close ties with her royal family in Iran and other parts of the Middle East. Her life after her divorce from the Shah was marked by a relatively quiet existence, far removed from the political spotlight. Fawzia's influence remained strong in the cultural and social circles of Egypt and Iran. She was highly respected by the Egyptian public, especially for her role as a royal ambassador during her early years. Even after her marriage to the Shah ended, she remained a beloved figure and frequently appeared in public, attending events and supporting various charitable causes. Though she was no longer a queen by title, Fawzia's status as a member of the former royal family kept her in the public eye. Fawzia also had a deep connection with her family. She was particularly close to her brother, King Farouk, and her later life was marked by a sense of duty and care toward the members of her family who continued to live in exile after the fall of the monarchy in Egypt. She also maintained strong ties with her Iranian relatives, particularly her niece, the future Empress Farah Pahlavi. Queen Fawzia passed away on July 2, 2013, at the age of 91, in Cairo, Egypt. Her passing marked the end of an era for the Egyptian monarchy, and her life story remains an integral part of both Egyptian and Iranian royal history. Her legacy is remembered through her beauty, intelligence, and the connection she forged between two great nations. After Queen Fawzia's passing in 2013, her legacy continued to hold significant importance in both Egyptian and Iranian history, as well as within the broader context of the Middle Eastern royal families. Her life symbolized the cultural and political ties that existed between Egypt and Iran in the 20th century. While she was primarily known for her role as a queen consort and as a sister of King Farouk, her personal journey and resilience in navigating complex royal dynamics made her a notable historical figure. Throughout her life, Queen Fawzia had been involved in several charitable initiatives, particularly in the areas of women's rights and education. During her time as a Queen of Iran, she was admired for her beauty, but also for her diplomatic role, which helped to strengthen the relationship between Egypt and Iran. Even after her divorce from Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, Fawzia's prominence did not diminish, and she continued to be a respected figure in the Arab world. Her divorce from the Shah was a personal setback, but also played a role in shaping the narrative of her life. It showed her ability to make decisions independently, despite the pressures and expectations placed on her as a royal figure. Queen Fawzia's return to Egypt after the divorce marked the beginning of her new life, and it was in Cairo that she found a sense of peace away from the royal limelight, though her status as a former queen continued to attract attention. In her later years, she lived relatively quietly, enjoying time with family and friends. Despite the political upheavals in Egypt following the 1952 revolution, which led to the ousting of her brother, King Farouk, Queen Fawzia did not seek to regain political power or influence. She remained content with her life in Cairo, participating in social events and maintaining a private life with her second husband, Ismail Chirine. However, she remained in contact with her royal relatives, including those in Iran, with whom she shared strong familial bonds. Her relationship with her niece, Empress Farah Pahlavi, was particularly close. Farah Pahlavi often spoke of the influence of her aunt on her own life, describing Queen Fawzia as a model of grace and strength. As a result, Queen Fawzia's death marked not only the passing of a royal figure, but also the loss of a cherished matriarch within both the Egyptian and Iranian royal families. Queen Fawzia's life remains a poignant reminder of the complexities and challenges faced by royal families in the 20th century. Her journey through marriage, divorce, exile, and eventual quiet retirement reflected the changing political and social landscape of the Middle East during her lifetime. She witnessed the downfall of monarchies in both Egypt and Iran, and the rise of republican and revolutionary movements. Throughout these tumultuous times, she maintained her dignity and became a symbol of resilience, grace, and cultural connection. Her passing left a significant gap in the royal history of the Middle East, but her legacy continues to be honored by those who remember her role as an influential queen and a beloved member of both the Egyptian and Iranian royal families. Even after her death in 2013, Queen Fawzia's legacy continued to be celebrated by both Egypt and Iran, two countries where her life and story held great cultural and historical significance. While she was often viewed through the lens of her royal status, her personal life, which included moments of joy, heartache, and resilience, resonated deeply with many people. As a member of both the Egyptian and Iranian royal families, she was seen as a bridge between two great nations, symbolizing the royal alliance. In the years following her death, her contributions to the royal courts and her role in both Egyptian and Iranian society were commemorated through various media, including documentaries and books about Middle Eastern royalty. People from both countries remembered her as a graceful and dignified queen, even in the face of challenges. Her life and marriage to Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, the Shah of Iran, were often discussed as pivotal moments in the political and royal histories of both nations. Her story also prompted renewed interest in the fates of royal families in the 20th century, particularly in the aftermath of revolutions and the end of monarchies in Egypt and Iran. Queen Fawzia's life unfolded during a time of political transformation in the Middle East. In Egypt, the monarchy was overthrown in 1952, leading to the exile of her brother, King Farouk, and the eventual establishment of a republic. In Iran, the Pahlavi dynasty continued under Mohammad Reza Pahlavi until the 1979 Iranian Revolution. These historical events shaped the course of Queen Fawzia's life, making her one of the last representatives of an era that had largely faded from the political scene by the end of the 20th century. Her second marriage to Ismail Chirine, an Egyptian diplomat, also contributed to her quiet life in Cairo after her royal years. She was remembered as a devoted wife, mother, and aunt who was deeply involved in her family's well-being and maintained connections with her extended royal family. The relationship she had with her niece, Empress Farah Pahlavi, became particularly meaningful in later years, especially as Farah took on the role of Iran's last empress before the revolution. Empress Farah often spoke of her aunt with great affection, remembering Queen Fawzia as a source of strength and support during turbulent times. In Egypt, where the monarchy had long since been replaced by a republic, Queen Fawzia was respected as a member of the country's royal past. Despite the political changes and the upheaval following the 1952 revolution, Queen Fawzia maintained a sense of grace and dignity that allowed her to remain beloved by many Egyptians. She was viewed as an enduring symbol of the golden age of Egypt's monarchy, even though she had been removed from direct political involvement. In her later years, she was often seen at social gatherings, living a life of quiet retirement while still enjoying the respect and admiration of those who remembered her time as a queen. Fawzia's influence was also felt beyond the political and royal realms. She was regarded as a fashion icon and a symbol of Middle Eastern beauty and sophistication during her time as queen consort. Her style and poise were widely admired, and she remained a figure of elegance throughout her life. Photographs of Queen Fawzia from her youth, particularly those taken during her marriage to the Shah of Iran, are still circulated and admired for their timeless quality. In the end, Queen Fawzia's life was a remarkable journey through a period of immense political and cultural change in the Middle East. From her early years in Egypt to her role as Queen of Iran, her brief but significant marriage to Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, her subsequent life in exile, and her final years in Cairo, Queen Fawzia lived through some of the most transformative events in modern history. Though she was no longer a queen by title in her later years, she remained a beloved figure in the hearts of many who remembered her as a symbol of grace, resilience, and royal heritage. Her legacy continues to inspire people, particularly those with an interest in the history of the Middle East and the royal families that once played such a pivotal role in shaping the region's politics and culture. Today, Queen Fawzia is remembered not only as a queen consort, but also as a woman who navigated the challenges of royal life with dignity and strength, leaving an indelible mark on the history of both Egypt and Iran. As the years pass since her death, Queen Fawzia's legacy has continued to be reflected upon by historians, royal enthusiasts, and those with particular interest in the history of the Middle East. Her life has become a point of reflection for many who explore the changing tides of monarchy, diplomacy, and the role of women in royal families during the 20th century. Her personal story also offers a unique perspective on the complexities and challenges faced by royal women, whose lives often straddle both political significance and deeply personal struggles. In recent years, Queen Fawzia's life has been revisited in various publications and scholarly articles. Writers and historians have often pointed out how her marriage to Mohammad Reza Pahlavi was not only a personal chapter in her life, but also a critical moment in the larger narrative of political alliances in the Middle East. The connection between Egypt and Iran, solidified through her marriage, highlights the role of royal unions in shaping international relations during the early decades of the 20th century. Her time in Iran also provided a bridge between two cultures, further emphasizing the important role royal families played in diplomatic endeavors. Even after the divorce, her presence in both Egypt and Iran continued to be a reminder of the historical bond between the two countries, especially during periods of tension or conflict. Her personal story also resonates with the broader struggles of women in the royal sphere, where duty and personal desires often collided. As a queen consort, Fawzia was expected to be a symbol of grace, support the reign of her husband, and embody the ideals of royalty. Yet her decision to divorce the Shah, breaking with the expectations of a royal marriage, showcased a personal strength that transcended the public image she was required to maintain. This aspect of her life is often discussed in the context of royal women who navigated personal and political tensions in ways that were sometimes unseen by the public, but which ultimately shaped their legacies. Her story also raises questions about identity, exile, and belonging. Though she returned to Egypt after her divorce from the Shah, Queen Fawzia spent a considerable amount of time in a space where she was neither fully part of the monarchy she once belonged to, nor entirely disconnected from political shifts that had led to its collapse. Her life in Cairo, after the Egyptian monarchy was abolished, was a quiet one, but it was a life filled with quiet dignity and a deep connection to her family. This theme of navigating life outside of the royal political spotlight, yet still remaining a vital figure in royal history, resonates with many other figures who were once central to the politics of their time but later found themselves outside the structures they once inhabited. In the years following her death, Queen Fawzia's name and image have appeared in books about Egyptian and Iranian royal history. Many who look back on her life see her as a symbol of a bygone era, a time when monarchies still held sway in the Middle East, and royal families were central to the political and social fabric of the region in this context. Her story continues to be celebrated as an important part of the broader narrative of the Middle East in the 20th century. The enduring admiration for Queen Fawzia is evident in how she is remembered by the generations that came after her. She remains a symbol not just of the Egyptian and Iranian royal families, but of the dignity and resilience that royal women often had to embody in times of political instability.